My recovery went from being 45-47% on waking on a morning to 85-87%. Following a hip operation in January, I should have been back running on the 7 to 8 month mark, and it was actually 4.5 months. My name's Claire Cook. I'm a triathlete based in Sunderland, and I race nationally and internationally at age group level for Team GB. So following a hip operation in January, I was researching how could I speed up my recovery, because the big goal was to make the European Championships, which would be 7 months post-surgery, which was a big ask to race an Ironman 7 months after such a huge operation. I seen some adverts on Instagram about the oxygen and the HBOT. I went for a 30-minute taster session locally and realised there was nothing to it at all. It was quite relaxing. When I did an online inquiry, Oxydise gave me a call, gave me all the information, and at that stage we agreed to go forward with a hire for 3 months to help me get to my race. So after I got the installation of the machine, I noticed such a huge improvement in my recovery straight away. The first week, my pain had reduced dramatically. I got to week 3 and week 4, and I was so impressed with the machine, I didn't want to just send it back after 3 months. So after just 4 weeks of hiring the machine, I reached out to Oxydise and inquired about purchasing the machine. So my recovery before finding HBOT was extremely slow. As a triathlete, I found that incredibly frustrating, that I wanted to move on quite quickly. With my recovery, I was always conscious of time, that I wanted to get back and potentially starting to get fit for the European Championships. The biggest difference I did notice, we took a family holiday after about 6 weeks of using the machine, and my night sleep tracker dramatically told me that I was then not sleeping again, I wasn't recovered, and I wasn't rested. As soon as I came home and I got back in the machine 5 days later, my recovery improved, my sleep improved, and my pain reduced. My first impressions of using the chamber was how easy and straightforward it is. Also how relaxing it is as well. Once I'm in the chamber, I usually take my iPad in there with me, catch up a little bit on TV, on YouTube, a little bit of research on looking on social media, but it's actually a 60-minute relaxing time just for me in the machine. Oh, absolutely not. There's stacks of space in the machine. I've actually got the smaller pod, as I like to call it. I've got a very small spare bedroom. Space was limited, and space inside the pod isn't an issue. There's more than enough space. The changes in recovery after using HBOT were actually really staggering to me. Because I do wear a sleep tracker, my recovery went from being 45-47% on waking on a morning to 85-87%. That's not just a feeling I had to feel that I was in less pain and I was more confident in starting to get back training, but my sleep tracker was actually backing up all that information as well. My injury was I tore the cartilage and ruptured my hip socket. It affected me hugely mentally, because all I've ever known for the last 10 years is getting up at 4:45 every morning and going training. So all of a sudden I couldn't do that, and I had no purpose. The injury happened over time. I was under the hospital for 3 years and then discharged from the hospital. I was out just doing a very easy run, and all of a sudden felt like my hip had dislocated and was in extreme amounts of pain. I knew, obviously being an athlete, that there was something seriously wrong. Once I started HBOT, the pain improved week by week, even daily. I would use the machine before bed, so after dinner on a night I would just go up there and have my hour in the pod and then have a shower and get into bed. So it was a nice relaxing end to the night as well for me. Waking up on a morning, I'd say daily it improved. I just kind of woke up after the first 7 to 10 days and thought, actually I'm not in half the amount of pain, and that just improved everything in my life at the time. HBOT's helped me return to training because I'm not waking up in pain, I'm not waking up stressed, I'm a lot more rested, I'm waking up happier, so it makes training very easy for me. I love training, I love racing. The thing I wanted to get back to was always there. The thing holding me back was the pain factor. I'd been in pain for so long with the injury. and by reducing that pain, it just made everything so easy. I recently completed 2 aquabike races locally in the area. My first race back, awful weather, awful conditions, but I was just so happy throughout the full day to actually be back amongst friends and colleagues that I knew from the racing scene. Very surprised to take the overall win on my first 2 races back. That just made everything so much easier in my head that it was possible and I was coming back. HBOT's been a huge support in the build-up for my long distance aquabike. To go from not training to racing for 8 hours in 6 months was just huge. It was huge for my confidence, huge for my mental health. Because the pain barrier wasn't there, because I was more relaxed and more rested, I wasn't in that pain, so it was allowing me to ride on my bike more, it was allowing me to swim. I felt so much happier getting back training, and to race for 8 hours pain-free. If I'd have came last in the race, I would have still enjoyed my day. Obviously I do want to win, that's why I race, but yeah, it's just made such a difference to how I can race at the moment. So following the aquabike win, I then started to believe that I could go to the European Championships. I was a very late entry and we didn't even book a hotel because we didn't know how I was going to react. But week on week, I've improved. My recovery is better. I'm doing bigger and bigger sessions, training for an Ironman, straight in my oxygen before bed, waking up recovered the next morning. So the confidence was growing and it just made my prep work for the European Championships so much easier. Now, right after the period of surgery, I'd say I'm a different person. I do still get niggles and I do still get flare-ups on the hip, but I've got my HBOT machine there, which I still use regularly and I will always use, but I don't have the stress, I don't have the anxiety, I don't have the pain. My life now, before HBOT, with the injury, is just 2 completely different lives altogether. So other than being an athlete, HBOT's had a huge benefit on my general everyday life. I wasn't sleeping very well. I've had a lot of anxiety, going through perimenopause of that age. It has reduced all of those symptoms. It is a very, very relaxing time. What I have in the pod, it's stress-free, it's my time, and it's just so simple to have that hour on my own. I would absolutely recommend HBOT to anyone, whether they are an athlete or they are going through some struggles. For general everyday well-being, the benefits are huge. Post-season now, not really training very much, but I am still using HBOT to help with my sleep and help with my anxiety, and it does really help with everything in everyday life. Any other athlete unsure about trying HBOT, I would just consider how much you value your recovery. For me, I don't like taking tablets, I don't like taking pills, I don't like taking anything that my body doesn't need. So if you can use natural products and sit in an oxygen chamber for 45 to 60 minutes and wake up fully recovered the next morning and go and training again, to me it's invaluable. There's just myself and my husband in the household. After David's seen such improvements in my general well-being, he is interested in using it, and that's something we're going to go through on showing him how to use the pod, and I'm sure he's going to benefit out of it also. So before trying HBOT, the recovery methods I was doing was, I was on obviously a lot of painkillers off the hospital, anti-inflammatories. I would use compression boots, obviously all of my physio, which is still ongoing, but using the HBOT has alleviated all of that. I don't take any painkillers anymore, I don't take any inflammatories. So my physio at the hospital noticed a huge improvement with me. He had to follow a protocol from the surgeon, but we were always 4 to 6 weeks ahead of schedule. I should have been back running on the 7 to 8 month mark, and it was actually 4.5 months. And I was allowed to try my first run because I was hitting all of the markers, all of the strength, and the physio just said, there's no point holding it back anymore, your body's fully recovered. So if HBOT hadn't been available, I don't think I would have made my race in September to go to the European Championships. There was no way at all. Naturally, I could recover that quickly. So my current routine with HBOT, as I'm off season at the moment, I'm not training a great deal, so I'll use the machine 2 to 3 times a week. I do like to keep on top of it. It does improve my sleep, it helps with my anxiety and stress, so that is a huge improvement. When I go back into race season, 6 to 8 weeks, while I'm in Ironman training, I'll be using it every day. If any other athlete is watching, I'd want them to take away from my journey just how simple the recovery process can be and how much easier it can be for you. There's no need to sit around in pain. There's no need to prolong recoveries. It's just so easy. I zip myself up in the pod, lie there, listen to some music and literally recover while I sleep.